Alright, today I'm going to show you how to set up a Windows XP virtual machine so that you can run an Agilent UV-Vis 8453 UV-Vis using the ChemStation software version A.10.01, I believe. And so I'm going to be using VirtualBox. It is a virtual machine software that's open source and free to use. And so I'm using version, at the time of recording this video, version 7.1.10 R169112. And so I'm going to go through setting up the virtual machine, setting up the software, configuring the instrument, and then actually performing a test on the instrument so you can ensure that it works properly. So let's first start by adding Windows XP, creating a Windows XP virtual machine. For this version of the software, you need a 32-bit version of Windows XP, and you can find that on the Internet Archive. This particular version here, this is the version that I downloaded. You can download the ISO image, and there's a serial number here that you can use. And so I've already done this, and there's going to be a link in the description for this exact ISO that I'm using. So I've already downloaded this, and I'm going to get started. So I have a Windows XP virtual machine here that I've already used, but I'm just going to go through the setup, starting a new one. So I'm just going to name it. I'm going to name it Tutorial XP. It's just going to be living in this folder. You can choose this to be any folder. You might want to put it somewhere in your C drive if multiple users are going to be using this, so that they too can add the virtual machine to their manager here. The ISO image that you would select is the one that is downloaded, and so that is downloaded here for me. So I'm just going to choose that. Unattended install. I just put a password, a username and password here, but I don't think it really matters. I'm just going to put just a kind of generic password here. For the hardware, for this particular setup, what I want to do is allocate essentially 2 gigabytes of RAM. I'm going to use 1 CPU, and for the hard disk, I'm going to set it to be something like probably 50 gigabytes, just to be safe. And so with this, I'm going to hit finish, and now it's going to automatically power up the virtual machine. And so we'll let that run. And we'll let this kind of start. And I'll fast forward through the parts that are just running and aren't that important. All right, at this point, we can put in the product key that's on that that's on the web page. So let's just pull that up. Okay, this is fine. Just put this in. Right, it worked. So we will just keep installing. All right, it's installed, and we're going to hear the opening tune. All right, so here we are. This computer's not going to be connected to the internet or anything, so we don't need to worry about an antivirus or anything, any of this stuff. What I will do, just really quick, is change the screen resolution so that this is just a little bit bigger, so we can see more on the screen. Yep. Okay. Now, one thing to do before we get into installing the software is we want to add, we want to insert guest editions CD image. This is going to help us set up folders that can communicate between our host desktop here and our virtual machine here. And so I'm going to insert that. And so by clicking that, we can then go to my computer and we see essentially our CD drive has this guest editions CD in it. And so now we're going to run that. This is, we don't need to really change anything here. Change all of this, or not change all this. We're going to let all of this install. And we're going to let this, we're actually going to manually reboot later for this, because what I want to show you now is setting up a shared folder. This is again going to let us transfer files pretty easily between the host computer and the virtual computer. And so we can go to the shared folders section under the devices menu and hit shared folder settings. And this is going to bring up our VirtualBox little options menu here. We'll hit the plus folder here. And what I'm going to do is for the folder path, I'll go to desktop and I'm going to select the share folder. I'm going to say auto mount and make permanent and hit OK. And I'll hit OK again. And now at this point, we'll reboot the computer. And now with that added, I believe we can, yeah, we can auto drag the window and it's going to automatically change the screen resolution, which is really nice. But more importantly, if we go to my computer, we should see our folder. Yeah, so we see this under network drives, we see share folder. And this is this folder that I have on my desktop here. And so if I were to create a new text document and just call it hello host, if I go here, I can see this folder, I can see this file here. Similarly, if I say hello virtual machine, I'll see it then here when I just kind of reload the folder. So that's great. That's just going to make it easier. So now what we need to do is download our essentially download our ChemStation A.10.01. And again, this is something that's on the Internet Archive. This is something that I've uploaded. It's here. Again, this link will be in the bio of this video. And so what it has is this ISO image of the ChemStation install CD. It has PDFs of all of the user manuals for that software. This is also going to be included in the install, but in case you need to read through it beforehand, it's there. And then it's also going to have this Windows executable, which, okay, it started downloading, but this is going to be our I/O configuration software. This is what's going to let us communicate with the UV-Vis through a GPIB input-output cable that's connected directly to the UV-Vis. I know that there are some that need to use a network connection, or use not a network connection, but use a LAN connection. I'm not very familiar with setting that up because I haven't had to do it on this particular instrument, but we'll need this file. And so you can download all these using this button here. I've already gone ahead and done that, and it's in this virtual machine folder that I have on my desktop that has all of these things. And so one thing I want to do is I want to take my IO executable, and I want to put that in my share folder because I'm going to want to install that on the Windows XP virtual machine. But I also want to take note of this ChemStation.iso. This is going to be the essentially like the install CD that we're using for our software. So I'm just going to make a note of that, and I'm going to go back to my virtual machine here, and what I want to do is on this optical drive, I want to choose a disk file, which I've already mounted this before, so it's showing up here for me, but I'll just walk through it. I want to choose a disk file. I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to go to File. Oops, I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to go to Virtual Machine, and I'm going to select ChemStation.iso. I'm going to open that. Now if we go to my computer, we have now a CD-ROM that is mounted to the computer called ChemStation. And so what we want to do now is we want to go to Start, Run, and we want to do D setup.exe, and we'll hit Run. And what that's going to do is it's going to access that CD-ROM. There is a setup.exe, and now we have this ChemStation install window that pops up. Now I don't have the instrument connected. I don't need to connect it yet. I'll do that later in the video. But to show you first, here is instrument 1. That's the default. We're going to add this general purpose ChemStation. There's all these different add-ons that you need different licenses for, but for the sake of this video, we have the general purpose ChemStation. I'm going to add it, and then I'm going to click on new license number, and I'll type in my license number for this software. It is CU1CB20C0A. I'll hit add. It's been added. I'll hit OK. Then I'll hit install. Now, before we start ChemStation, we're going to have to reboot the system. That's OK. And now this is telling us some information in the in kind of the instrument configuration application that what the address of our instrument is. It's not connected, but what it will be if it is connected. The other thing to note is that we got to write down this GPIB card. This is going to essentially get emulated in the next thing that we install, but we want to make note of what this is saying right here. So I'll hit OK. I'll close out of this. I'll save the configuration file. And now ChemStation is installed. Now the next thing I want to install is this IO library suite. I'm just going to copy it to my documents. And then I'm going to run it. We're just going to follow the installation guide. And this will take a little bit to install. So I'll fast forward through this part. All right, installation was successful, and this is going to automatically run every time you start the computer. And so at this point, I will restart the computer. All right, so now what we can do is we can open up, we can just take a look and see that ChemStation is at least able to open. So I'll hit this instrument 1 online. First thing we have to do is create an operator name, and a password is optional. So I'll just hit OK there. And it's just going to set up it's going to set up the ChemStation. I don't have any instrument connected, so when I hit blank, it'll say instrument not connected or switched off. And then we'll also have down here the Agilent I/O control, and hit connection expert. And this will take a little bit to load. Great. We see our connection expert show this window at startup. No, we don't want to. All right, so here's where we're going to control any instrument that's connected to the computer through a GPIB interface. I haven't yet connected the instrument, so let's do that now. All right, here's the Agilent 8453. It's connected to the computer through a GPIB to USB 2.0 cable. And I'm going to take the USB end and I'm just going to plug that into my laptop here. Okay, now with the USB plugged in, we're going to open up the devices submenu, go to USB, and we should see Agilent Technologies 82357B GPIB interface as an option to select. We're going to select that option, and then we need to open up our Agilent I/O monitor at the bottom. And something to note is that sometimes it takes a while for the USB to mount fully. I have to click it a couple times, and this is only upon first adding it to the PC. Afterwards, it's fine. And then also the Agilent I/O will take a while to load as well. So keep that in mind. If you need to open it a couple times or click on it a couple times, that's just something that happens. When the GPIB to USB interface is fully connected, you can refresh the instruments, and we should see the instrument under the USB/GPIB right here. And so let's get that configured. First thing we need to do is hit Change Properties, and we need to take off auto-identify this instrument. We do not want that to auto-identify. Next, we'll go to the USB/GPIB section and click Change Properties. And we're going to change our SICL interface ID to the HP82341 and our GPIB address to 30. Turn Auto Discover off and hit Agilent 88 Properties and enable Agilent 488. Hit OK, and this is going to reload everything. Restart the computer just to be sure that all the settings and everything have saved properly. Upon starting Windows XP again, if we go to the USB section, we'll see that our instrument is still connected. Let's open Agilent I.O. and see that we have our green check marks next to our GPIB to USB connector. At this point, power cycle the Agilent 8453 by turning it off and turning it back on, and let it turn fully back on until the front light is green again. And at that point, we can open up ChemStation. Now we're ready to open ChemStation. Let's open it. Takes a little bit to load. And what we see is that the instrument time differs. That's fine. That means we're communicating with the instrument. We can hit no. And then we can open up the software and control our UV-Vis. Let's verify that our lamps are on. They are, and let's do a blank sample and take a look at the instrument and see if it's functioning properly. Upon just hitting the blank button, we see that the lights are flashing, performing a blank, and at this point, the instrument is all set up. You can perform a self-test on this instrument to ensure that the lamps are functioning properly, but at this point, you're now controlling this instrument using a Windows XP virtual machine running ChemStation A.10.01, and I hope that this video helped you. Thanks.